The sanctuary of amber and mist asterisk the morning of softened edges. Asterisk Alara woke not to the sound of an alarm, but to the sensation of a sunbeam walking across her quilt. It was a heavy, handmade thing, stitched with threads dyed in saffron and sage, weighting her body down in the most comforting way, like a gentle hug that lasted all night. She breathed in. The air in the cottage smelled of dried lavender, beeswax, and the clean, crisp scent of a nearby stream. There was no rush here. In Eldoria, time did not march. It meandered. It flowed like the river outside, sometimes pulling in quiet moments, sometimes trickling playfully over stones, but never dragging anyone along against their will. Alara stretched, feeling the pop and release of her muscles, her toes curling against the cool, smooth wood of the floorboards as she sat up. She walked to the window. The glass was thick and slightly warped with age, turning the view outside into a living impressionist painting. Outside, the great moss trees stood like benevolent guardians. Their trunks were so wide it would take 20 people holding hands to circle them, and their bark was carpeted in velvet moss that shimmered with a faint, bioluminescent green pulse. Floating lanterns, tethered by nothing but intention, drifted lazily between the branches, their soft orange glow mingling with the morning mist. To wake up without urgency is the first healing of the soul. Alara opened the window. The sound of the valley drifted in a symphony of peace. The rustle of leaves sounded like hushed whispers of encouragement. Somewhere, a wind chime made of sea glass clinked softly, a random, melodic lullaby carried by the breeze. Here is a story designed to be a sanctuary for your mind. Let your shoulders drop, unclench your jaw, and allow the rhythm of the words to guide you into a state of deep rest. The sanctuary of amber and mist. Imagine, for a moment, that there's a door in the back of your mind. It is not heavy, nor is it locked. It is made of smooth, weathered wood, warm to the touch, smelling faintly of cedar and ancient rain. As you push it open, the noise of the world that demands, the rushing, the ticking of clocks fades into a gentle, distant hum, like the sound of the ocean heard from miles away. You step through. Here, the light is perpetually stuck in the golden that honey-thick, amber radiance that makes everything look soft, forgiven, and whole. You have arrived in the Valley of Eldoria, a place that exists not on any map, but in the quiet space between heartbeats. Alara woke not to the sound of an alarm, but to the sensation of a sunbeam walking across her quilt. It was a heavy, handmade thing, stitched with threads dyed in saffron and sage, weighting her body down in the most comforting way, like a gentle hug that lasted all night. She breathed in. The air in the cottage smelled of dried lavender, beeswax, and the clean, crisp scent of a nearby stream. There was no rush here. In Eldoria, time did not march. It meandered. It flowed like the river outside, sometimes pulling in quiet moments, sometimes trickling playfully over stones, but never dragging anyone along against their will. Alara stretched, feeling the pop and release of her muscles, her toes curling against the cool, smooth wood of the floorboards as she sat up. She walked to the window. The glass was thick and slightly warped with age, turning the view outside into a living impressionist painting. Outside, the great moss trees stood like benevolent guardians. Their trunks were so wide it would take 20 people holding hands to circle them, and their bark was carpeted in velvet moss that shimmered with a faint, bioluminescent green pulse. Floating lanterns, tethered by nothing but intention, drifted lazily between the branches, their soft orange glow mingling with the morning mist. To wake up without urgency is the first healing of the soul. Alara opened the window. The sound of the valley drifted in a symphony of peace. The rustle of leaves sounded like hushed whispers of encouragement. Somewhere, a wind chime made of sea glass clinked softly, a random, melodic lullaby carried by the breeze. The kitchen was the heart of the cottage, a round room with stone walls that seemed to hold the warmth of yesterday's fire. Elara moved to the hearth, where a copper kettle hung over low, glowing embers that never truly died out. She prepared her tea with the reverence of a ceremony. She took a ceramic jar from the shelf, the lid making a satisfying thump as it opened. Inside were leaves of moonmint and dried chamomile flowers that had been harvested under starlight. As she poured the water, the steam rose in twisting, dancing ribbons. It was said in the valley that if you watched the steam long enough, your worries would attach themselves to the vapor and dissolve into nothingness. Pour, swirl, steep. She took the ceramic cup warm, rough-hewn, fitting perfectly into the curve of her palms and walked to her back porch. The porch overlooked the Mirror Lake. The water was so still it reflected the sky perfectly, creating a seamless loop of blue and white clouds. As Elara sat in her rocking chair, she took a sip. The liquid was warm, tasting of earth and honey. It spread through her chest, a slow tide of heat that relaxed the muscles around her spine. A small creature, the size of a cat but with fur the color of autumn leaves and large, gentle eyes, hopped onto the railing. It was Amber Fox. It didn't beg for food. It simply sought companionship. It curled up near her elbow, emitting a low, vibrating purr that resonated through the wood of the chair, grounding Elara to the earth. They sat there for an hour, doing nothing, achieving nothing, simply existing in the amber light, watching the dragonflies sketch invisible patterns over the sleeping water. By midday, the light had shifted to a creamy, pearlescent white. Elara decided to walk to the village square, though square was a misnomer. It was a circle of open grass where the villagers would sit and mend things. In Eldoria, nothing was ever thrown away. It was only healed. She walked along the path paved with flat river stones. The grass on either side was tall and soft, brushing against her shins like silk. As she walked, the trees overhead seemed to lean in, their branches creating a vaulted ceiling of emerald and jade. She met Orin, the weaver. Orin sat on a bench carved from a fallen log, his hands busy with a loom of floating light strands. He was weaving a tapestry of memories, good ones. The fabric shimmered with images of laughter, of sunsets, of hands held tight. "Peace be with your steps, Elara," Orin said. His voice was deep and resonant, like a cello bowed slowly in a large hall. "And with your hands." "Orin," she replied softly. She sat beside him. There was no need for forced conversation. In this valley, silence was not empty. It was full of understanding. They watched the light play through the leaves. "The wind is gentle today," Orin noted, his fingers guiding a thread of shimmering gold into the weave. "It speaks of a long, restful sleep coming tonight." "The forest knows," Elara murmured. She watched his hands. The rhythm was hypnotic. Over, under, pull. Over, under, pull. It was a visual mantra. Elara felt her own breathing synchronize with the movement of the loom. Her eyelids grew heavy, not with exhaustion, but with a profound release of tension. It was the feeling of putting down a heavy bag you hadn't realized you were carrying for years. We are not built to run forever. We are built to rest, to weave, to mend. Later in the afternoon, a gentle rain began to fall. In Eldoria, it never stormed. The rain here was warm and vertical, a cleansing wash that made the leaves shine and the earth smell rich and fertile. Elara sought refuge in the sanctuary of scrolls. It was a building grown, not built, shaped from the hollow of a massive elder tree. Inside, the walls were lined with shelves holding books bound in leather and velvet. The sound of the rain on the wooden roof was a rhythmic drumming tap, tap, sh, tap, a natural white noise that blotted out thought. She found a nook filled with plush pillows and soft woolen blankets. A small fire crackled in a stone recess, casting dancing shadows of orange and yellow against the walls. The fire popped occasionally, a cozy punctuation to the steady hum of the rain. Elara picked up a book. It had no title, only a symbol of a cloud on the spine. When she opened it, the pages didn't tell a story of conflict or drama. Instead, they described textures and colors. Page 1 described the feeling of cool moss against a bare foot. Page 2 described the exact shade of blue found in a robin's egg. Page 3 described the scent of pine needles baking in the sun dot as she read. The words became sensations. She felt the moss. She saw the blue. She smelled the pine. Her mind, usually a chaotic storm of thoughts, settled into a glassy stillness. She lay back against the pillows, pulling a wear-upon blanket up to her chin. The fire warmed her feet. The rain guarded the door. She was safe. She was held. Evening came not as a darkness, but as a deepening of colors. The sky turned from pearl to lavender, then to a deep, velvety indigo. The rain stopped, leaving the world glistening. Elara walked back to her cottage, the path now lit by the moon blooms. These were large, white flowers that only opened at night, releasing a soft, silver phosphorescence that illuminated the ground like fallen stars. The air was cooler now, fresh and crisp. Crickets began their rhythmic chirping, a steady, pulsing beat that slowed the heart. Elara entered her home and lit a single candle. The flame stood tall and still. She changed into loose cotton linens, washed her face with cool water, and climbed into her bed.